Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click on that like button if you like my video. Also click on that notification bell. Thank you.
Hello friends, welcome to the first lecture of this section where we will be talking about prerequisites for Microsoft SQL Server installation. Keep in mind that these requirements are good enough for our lab environment and also for installation in production environment. Of course, in production environments, we have much more resources available to us and we can utilize them accordingly for production workload. But for our lab environment, we will be using at least the recommended resources. We will start with the hardware requirements. Microsoft SQL Server requires at least 6 GB of available hard disk space. And the recommendation is that the file system for that hard disk should be NTFS or REFS. FAT32 file system is supported but not recommended. When we talk about memory, Express Edition requires at least 512 MB of memory, and all other editions requires 1 GB of memory. But the recommendation is that Express Edition should have 1 GB of memory, and all the other editions should have at least 4 GB of memory available. Processor speed minimum requirement is 1.4 GHz, but the recommendation is 2 GHz or faster. And processor type, we can use AMD processor or Intel processor. Then we move on to software requirements. Microsoft SQL Server requires .NET Framework 4.6 for the database engine, master's data services, and replication. When we talk about the network software, all the supported operating systems for SQL Server have built-in network software. What it means that if we are installing Microsoft SQL Server on a Windows Server 2016, all the required network software are already available in Windows Server 2016. There are some considerations which we should care about when we are installing Microsoft SQL Server. First is that installation of SQL Server 2016 is supported on x64 processors only. What does that mean is that we can only install Microsoft SQL Server on a 64-bit machine, not on a 32-bit machine. We were able to do that up until SQL Server 2008 R2, but then since then it's been changed and we can only install Microsoft SQL Server on a 64-bit machine. SQL Server 16 can be installed on Windows Server 2012, 2016, and 2019. Also, you cannot run SQL Server on a domain controller under a local service account, and it is highly not recommended to run Microsoft SQL Server on a domain controller under any other service account. One more recommendation and consideration, which is for production environments especially, is to have separate disks for data files, log files, and tempdb. What are data files, log files, and tempdb? When we will be doing the installation and further going into details of Microsoft SQL Server architecture, you will understand those files and tempdb. But for now, just keep in mind that Microsoft SQL Server recommendation is that we have separate disks for data files and log files and for the tempdb. This is the end for this lecture. I will see you in the next lecture. Thank you so much.